Good afternoon. In the event of a fire alarm sounds, please remain in the auditorium and stay seated. Should there be a need to evacuate, a Springmore staff member will direct you on how to leave in an orderly fashion. Please remember not to use the elevators and go to the red pole once outside. And if you have not already done so, please take that few extra seconds that it takes to pull that cell phone out of your pocket or out of your purse, and please turn it off or silence it so that it will not ring and interrupt while we're having the program. I would now like to call this meeting to order. This is the 5th Residents Association meeting of 2025, and it is okay. All right, let me start once again. I will call this meeting to order again and welcome you to the 5th Residents Association meeting for 2025. It looks like we once again have almost filled up the auditorium, and it's good to see you here because we're going to have a very informative as well as an interesting program this afternoon, as we always do. I also hope that there are a lot of residents who are watching us on 1341. Just remember, as always, that the Residents Associations are live streamed. They're also recorded. So if you do happen to miss one, you can always go to the resident portal, click on Resident Association, and you can find the recordings of the meetings there. They're there for this year as well as last year. All right, at this time, I'd like to recognize if there are any people here who are residents who are here for the first time. If so, please raise your hand. We got one over here. We got two over here. Joanne's going to bring her your microphone, and when she brings you that microphone, if you will please state your name, when you moved to Springmore, where you're living, and where you moved from.
Where are those hands?
Carl and Emily Siegel. We live over in the South Village.
With our cat.
Okay.
With our cat. With our cat.
We've been here about a month.
Welcome.
Thank you, Jesus. It works.
One other one on the front row, Joanne.
Stand up and speak to it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Scully, and this is my 4th day here at Springmore. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, and I hope there are some new members also watching on 1341, and we welcome all of you to Springmore. It's now time for our program, so I will introduce our Vice President, Barbara Smith.
Wow, you all just get better. I just love it that all of you come out on a rainy day like today. It's just super. We have a very good program today that I think is something that we should all be very proud of and be thankful that it's here. And this is the Stewart Health Center, and we have an auxiliary that works together and puts together all of these committees, and I think you're going to enjoy this. But I'm going to turn it over to the Vice President, Peg Simone.
Hi. Today's program focuses on the Stewart Health Center for 2 reasons. First, much is new in the health center. Newly remodeled, new wings opening, a new neighborhood concept, and an increasingly bright and cheerful place to visit, to recover in, and to live in. Second, the Stewart Health Center Auxiliary provides many, many hours of volunteer service in the health center, and we want to recognize these nice people, show some of what they are doing to help the center's staff and residents, and give you a chance to meet us and join with us as a volunteer too. Back to what's new in the health center. A good friend has come today to tell us about it. I'll turn the microphone over to Brandon Hare, Operations Vice President for Retirement Living Associations, to tell us why it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Wow, it's good to see everybody. I wore my glasses today so I could make sure I see everybody in the crowd. And I'm going to try not to stand behind the computer this time. I'm going to maybe stand out front here. But as Ms. Simone says, it's a nice day in the neighborhood. I'm so glad to be back home to see everybody. So good to see everybody. It's such a, I know it's not the most pretty day being outside raining, but we can always use the rain. I'm so glad to see so many people here today because I know you're all interested about the health center, something that I know I've spoke about many, many times. So hope this isn't redundant. I've tried to switch up a little bit and talk about some different things. So hopefully this will be somewhat entertaining and educational. If you have any questions afterwards, I have nowhere to be. Well, not nowhere to be, but I mean, I don't have to rush off anywhere. So I'm happy to, answer any questions or, anything you want to talk about afterwards, please let me know. So again, so good to see everybody. So thank y'all so much for having me here. Can y'all hear me okay? Well, you know what? I'll take this. I don't want anybody not to hear. So that first slide is something that Jessica did in one of her previous presentations. And I thought that was just a good opening slide. In Pursuit of the Sunbeam is just a general book about the institution of the household models, neighborhood models. Some people call it that. It can be either or. But basically, it talks about going from an institutional model, nursing home, to a household model. And you'll see how it's kind of designed around serving larger groups of residents versus smaller groups of residents. That's a whole general concept. There's a lot of things that go into that and a lot of things that play in to make that happen. But I thought I'd use this first slide from her to talk about the future of the Stewart Health Center. So really the overall change is more of a culture change for the health center. Yes, it's been redesigned, it's been renovated, but it's not just being renovated with new paint and new carpet and new kitchens and sitting areas. It's being renovated to create a household. So the creation of a household, I thought I'd talk about that for a second. I'm not sure if I told you about this, but there are several groups that kind of claim to have invented or created the household. One is a gentleman named Bill Thomas with the Greenhouse Project, and the other one is Action Pact, and that's the group that we work with. They work together as a group, but the whole concept is a household model, and the story I like to tell the most is one of the ladies who created the household model, she had a special needs child, and her special needs child lived at a home, a small care home where they cared for him individually with all his personal needs. So whatever he needed as a special needs, they cared for him, very person-centered all the way through his life. So as this lady is approaching time to put her mother into a retirement home, she puts her in there and sees that, everything's done at the same time. Everybody goes to dinner at the same time. Everybody gets their medicine at the same time. Everybody goes to sleep at the same time. And she wondered, well, why is this the nursing home or the health center, why is it not more person-centered care like my son's special needs home? So that whole idea spawned, how can we create a household where we create person-centered care for older people and not just for younger people or other people with special needs? So that's kind of how the creation of the household model came about and all these other things you'll hear about. Training to implement. This was a 2-year training that we went through during COVID. Not necessarily the best time to go through it, so we started out strong. had to take a break, did some virtual stuff, and then we came back in person to finish up. So it's a 2-year journey of training with various staff members. Jessica Pagan and me and Carrie Corley, our previous healthcare director, we actually went to Milwaukee for a whole week and did actual training at their facility. And they really preach what they teach. I mean, you actually go into a house that they own in downtown Milwaukee, and we eat lunch together, and we eat breakfast together, and we eat snacks together, and we sit at the dining room table to do lessons, and it's a very household model, and sit upstairs in the family room to watch a movie to discuss. So you really are trained on how to kind of implement this whole household model. So long training for not only the directors, but for the staff. Deciding what works best at each community. So hence the name of that, Pursuit of a Rainbow. They kind of painted as kind of rainbows and ponies, if you know what that means. Everything's perfect, everything's going to work just great, but that's not necessarily the case. And we've learned that from other communities and other people. So you got to decide what works best for your community, of how you want to split that up. If you want specific people to do specific jobs like they do now, like nursing or dining or housekeeping, or if you want to do a universal worker where everything is done by one person. So we decided that we were going to do a hybrid model of having people still do their main job of housekeeping or nursing, but then help out in the community as general. And we have a really big health center. I think y'all know that. It's licensed for 191 beds. We have about 110 or 15 people back there on any given day. So we thought that was the best model for us, kind of a hybrid model. So it takes a lot of staff and family adjustment. So if you think about how we've done this for 40 years now, literally 40 years, the staff is always taking care of residents on their schedule. So our shifts are 7 to 3, 3 to 7, 7 to 11. So we would always, take the residents to lunch during the first shift time based on our schedule. And we would give them baths based on our schedule. So everything was done on the staff schedule. But the whole idea is to flip that, and we do it on the resident schedule. It shouldn't matter what shift you're on, if you're first, second, third shift, if you're an 8-hour shift, a 12-hour shift, or if you unfortunately had to stay 24 hours during a hurricane or a snowstorm, you need to be on the resident's schedule. So I got my back, y'all. I'm so sorry. So you need to be on the resident schedule of what's best for them. So that is an adjustment for staff, and we're still working through that to make sure they know that you don't have to do these certain duties from 7 to 3 or 3 to 7 or 11 to 7. Yes, there are certain things you still have to do and document, but they can be spread out amongst the shifts at different times. In addition to that, it's a lot of family adjustment. A lot of families are really, they like the way that their loved ones are cared for very routinely and very, regimented on a schedule. And we try to keep that. If that works for the resident, we're not going to change that. But if a resident, wants to choose what they want for lunch every day versus the family circling what they think they want for a whole week, we give the resident that chance. We give the resident that choice to do that. So that's something that sounds crazy, but it's very institutional in a nursing home to have a family member circle what you think their loved one wants to have, but letting the family understand what the resident to pick what they would like to have. Just an example. Yes, question? No. All right. Okay, so this is just kind of a rendering. If y'all have not been back to the assisted living area, the health center, please go check it out. This is a rendering of actually what it looks like. See Bob Barker's over there on the left. I don't think he hosts that anymore. This must be a really old picture. Anyway, so you can kind of see how we have an open concept. We have a kitchen that's open, looks like a household kitchen. We have a dining area, and over to the left we have a sitting area. So we want it to be very universal and very open, like you would a house. A lot of houses have open floor plans. So you don't want to just have a dining room and then you go down the hall to this little sitting area. We want it to be all open in a very, community-centered model where people can kind of come and go as they wish. If they want to sit there at the chair and eat and watch Price is Right because they can't see like me sitting at the table, they can go do that. They can sit at the bar if they want to. They can go grab something out of the refrigerator if they want something to drink. So that's the whole concept. Again, it's not exactly like that for each neighborhood, and we'll talk more about that. But household model and what it designs to do, as we've talked about, is be on the resident's schedule versus the staff schedule. And by doing that, we try to give residents as many choices as possible. So if you don't like to get up at 8 o'clock, you want to get up at 10 o'clock, well, you should have the choice to do that. If you don't want to eat lunch at 12, want to eat lunch at 2, you should have the choice to do that. So the whole idea is just to give residents as many choices as possible and try to continue to provide an independent lifestyle as y'all have right now, an independent living. You can pick, choose if you want to go to lunch, not go to lunch, or live your own life. And that's done, again, like I said, through person-centered care. We have to know what works for each resident to see what we can offer. Some people like the regimented schedule and staying on task and keeping up with, breakfast at 8, lunch at 12, supper at 5, and bed at 8. And that's great. We want to do what's best for the resident. So it's all about person-centered care. Staff helping with multiple duties. I talked about that earlier. What we decided to do was a hybrid model, because we had a lot of confusion from staff, rightfully so, as, I'm a nurse. I'm not a dining professional, or I'm a housekeeper. I can't do nursing things, or I don't want to do housekeeping things. I may get things contaminated when I go try to help a resident by being a housekeeper. So the way we try to talk about it is just doing stuff just like you would do around the house. I'm by no means a housekeeper. I'm by no means a nurse. I can grill, and that's about it. So you don't want me much in the kitchen, but I can help do a little bit of all of those things. I can help serve food. I can clean the dishes. I can take care of my kids if they skin their elbow while my wife's out of town like she was this weekend. And I can clean a little bit, not great, but enough to, get the job done. So again, this staff helping with multiple duties in the household all kind of pitch in to make that happen. And provides a better work environment for employees. It's been proven that employees like their jobs better, they stay at their position longer, and they just have a newfound life and a newfound passion for what they do. If you think about some of the employees that's been here for a long time, they've done housekeeping for 40 years, or dining service, or nurse, or CNA, and that's really redundant, and that's amazing. But to be able to do different jobs throughout the day and not be so set on, I got to clean this room right now and this one right there, and kind of, just do it on the resident schedule and help with different duties, it really provides a better work environment. And then also each household has its own personality. So we'll talk about the last few slides, talk about grouping residents together, but really it does have its own personality. It may have, residents that really don't want to have they don't have a desire to have choices. They just want to be on the schedule of the 8, 12, and 5 dinner and the shower every Tuesday, Thursday. Those are just examples. So, but there may be other ones where they really love to play bingo, and they want to play bingo every day. So we try to implement that to where they can do what they want to do, or they may love ice cream. They want ice cream every night, so we'll try to give them ice cream. So that's kind of a good one. But each household kind of has its own personality, and obviously that's made up of people, and we do that by providing person-centered care. So it's all just each kind of managing and loving each neighborhood by its own personality. So this is just another vision of kind of what the household looks like. It's just another area. I like this picture because it shows the kitchen there, and then it's open to the dining room, and as you come back this way, it's the sitting area. But you can see straight ahead the railing and the door right there to the right. So just think of it as like a big house. You're going to kind of just walk down the hall out of your room and just walk into the kitchen and the den, just like you would at your house, and not terribly different from what we have now, but it would be 12 to 16 residents, maybe 20 at the most, versus 30 or 60. So again, it just provides a different atmosphere and a different, family feel. That's why, obviously, neighborhood or household model is where that comes from. So the last few things, the different types of households, we believe grouping similar residents together is best. The best example of that is our assisted living area we have now that's open. I know the people that are in there right now may not stay there permanently, and we may have to move them. But for the longest time, actually for 40 years, we've just had the assisted living residents grouped in with the skilled nursing residents. That was something that was different to me and something I really wanted to change out of this project more than anything was to have its own separate assisted living area. We have it for our short-term care for people doing rehab stays. We have it for our memory care residents that need to be in a secure unit. So why didn't we have that for our assisted living folks? So we decided to create a whole household, which is the very first one of just assisted living people. And these people, in theory, should be able to, feed themselves, and they should be continent, and they should be able to get out of bed, and they need minimal assistance. So I want to group those together with people that can eat together, not have to be fed. They can carry on conversation and do like activities. Just as we do with the memory care, we group them together that need more help and more training. And then our rehab areas where people are really trying to rehab and get back to their apartment. We have those in certain areas because we, provide certain services that, the therapy in and out 2 or 3 times a day. And most of those residents like to kind of stay to themselves, or they may have a lot of visitors because they're there short term. So grouping the residents together. Location of different households, that's something that we really took into consideration. We wanted to have more of the specialty areas downstairs closer to all the newer amenities than we had before. So when we opened up the clinic and now the pharmacy, we wanted the very first neighborhood to be assisted living, because those are the ones that can kind of come and go more. They should be able to go to the clinic if they need to, or go to the pharmacy. I know this sounds kind of maybe different here, but I've worked at communities where people in assisted living actually still drive. I know we don't have that much here, but that's very common. I mean, that could happen. It may just be that somebody needs, a certain type of medicine on a regular basis or a little bit of help, but they can still do a lot of functions that they can, perform independently. So we want to have that group closer to all the amenities. We also wanted to have the short-term rehab people, which I talked about earlier, our short-term rehab residents, closer so loved ones and spouses wouldn't have to go so far to go visit them. So if you recall, I guess maybe where it is still now, it's like upstairs all the way to the back hall, you got to go see somebody on rehab. So we wanted that much closer, to therapy, to the clinic. They're getting more services. And we didn't want y'all or other family members have to walk that far to get to them. It should all kind of be down there. And the other area that was down there already was our memory care unit. So that's always been nice down there. We're totally renovating that, making it all nice and new, flip-flopping where the kitchen is from one side and the den to the other. We're actually adding 3 more rooms, so we'll have 12 private rooms and 24 total beds we can have back there. So we'll be able to offer more private rooms for the memory care residents. So that's how we did the different locations. And then we have all this long-term skilled nursing upstairs. Dining and activities in each household. Again, those are just different based on which area you're in. So in assisted living, it should be pretty normal. People can eat themselves. They can cut up their food. They can chew pretty good. They're not really restricted on many diets, and they can, have a normal meal. But in the health center areas, they may be more on mechanical soft or puree or maybe pure liquid diets. So we want to kind of look at those and group in those residents in certain areas based on dining and on activities. So Vera and Bailey and the rest of her wonderful staff can provide residents that are appropriate to each group in each neighborhood. And then lastly, staff in each neighborhood. We want to make sure that the staff is qualified for each neighborhood. So we want staff members that are very experienced in dementia training and memory care to be in the memory care. We want more the nurses that have to, transition residents and get them in and out of bed in the rehab area, make sure they get to therapy on time. Some of the ones that are more familiar with long-term care residents and maybe not be able to get out of bed as much, they can provide, bed baths or different services where they're not as mobile. And then other staff that are much more, used to working with independent residents and have them in the assisted living area because that's their personality and would fit in that certain household. So that. So I had a couple questions that I think that came from the auxiliary, and I was going to answer these, and then I'll let Vera and her group talk, and again, I'll be happy to answer anything afterwards. But the first one was, all these are great questions. The first one was, how Springmore, following the neighborhood concept, ranks against other nursing homes. That's a good question. It's really hard to tell. we have a unique nursing home in the fact that we're one of 6 out of the entire state that is private pay. And, we can't, all the residents that go to the health center are residents of Springmore already. So we don't have people from all over the greater Raleigh area come to our skilled nursing area. We're a closed CON, and we're also not, we also don't get a star rating from CMS. So a lot of people will go, so how does the nursing home rank? And they'll look at the qualifications and the 5 stars. So it's hard to really tell how we rank against other nursing homes, but I can tell you having the neighborhood concept has proven to provide better resident care because you're providing care in a different type of way, and better employee satisfaction, which we talked about. And then also just having things, I think, how we rank and do better than others is, our staffing. There's no longer certain staffing levels in the state. You have to have like 1 to 8 residents on first, or, 1 to 10 on second. But we've kept those staffing ratios internally, and we've always staffed more than what the required regulation was. So I think 2 main things really help us rank against other nursing homes. It's our staffing levels, which are always higher than what have to be, and the longevity of our nurses and our staffing. If you've been back there, had a loved one back there, Debbie Savinsky and Gail and Luda and all the CNAs. I mean, it's not uncommon for them to be back there 15, 20, 25 years. So that says a lot, and I can assure you nursing home these days are not having that longevity. So I think we rank very high in that. How many other nursing homes are adapting the neighborhood model? It's becoming a very common thing. I would say this concept's probably 25, 30 years old at the time. It was very progressive and innovative back in the day, and now it's, I'm not saying it's just, just accepted or just normal, but most people that are renovating a health center like we are, or building a new health center, they're constructing it in some kind of neighborhood concept. For instance, over at Searstone, that I get to go over and help from time to time now, they just added onto their health center, and they have a concept of looks kind of like a neighborhood. They have an open kitchen, an open dining area, and an open sitting area, but it's more halls and it's much bigger. It's not more closed and more home-like, but it is smaller areas where people are going to. They don't have it set up with the staffing that we're going to do as far as the specific areas yet. I'm working on that, but yeah, I think just having adopting that. Now, Glen Eyre's one that we really have very similar to. Actually, the same architect who designed Glen Eyre originally designed Springmore. He was with another firm years ago when he designed Glen Eyre. Then he went solo and he designed ours. He's since retired, but his people at his company have carried it on. So Glen Eyre is very similar to us, and they have a neighborhood model. And there's actually a really cool, I meant to look this up before I left to tell y'all, there's this really neat company here in Raleigh. It's a small kind of mom and pop business. And Jessica may know this, but it's a family that actually owns like 5 or 6 houses in the Raleigh-Durham area, and they're actually building one in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, of all places. And they actually buy houses in the neighborhood and have like 5 or 6 people or 8 people like live in a house, like in an actual house in a neighborhood. So I can't remember the name of it, but I saw it in a Triangle Business Journal. One of the ladies was being featured. So they'll buy a house in, Stonehenge, and they'll move 8 people in, and they'll have staff that just live there, and talk about cooking and cleaning and taking care of. I mean, they do everything. So it's a niche thing. So I think the neighborhood model has been around in different areas for a long time, and it's just never been kind of brought to the forefront in a lot of places like we're highlighting it now. So, all right, last question they had. Any special survey Springmore has passed, or any special certifications Springmore has as it relates to the health center? So I don't know of any special certifications within the neighborhood model. A lot of people have had more experience in it. They've been doing it longer. They have retraining or any special surveys. I can tell you our last survey we had was deficiency-free in the entire survey. So I know that our surveys in the health center in general are really good. And then what we're wanting to do with certifications is we want to make sure that each staff member, those areas I mentioned, are really highly certified to provide the best care in that area. So, for instance, in the memory care, we want to make sure that the nurse that's overseeing that or the household coordinator has as much dementia training as possible. If there's a certificate she can get or some kind of class she can go through, or he or she, we want that to happen. If it's assisted living and they can have some kind of certification as a staff member, we want to do that. We're really big into education and providing them all the tools to provide residents a good quality of life. So if there's anything else that comes up with that, I'll let y'all know. I don't know of any, but those are really good questions. So that is the end of my presentation. I hope that was not redundant of things that y'all have heard before. Tried to mix it up the best I can remember. I think I've been talking about this for probably like 7 or 8 years now, so I'm sure some of this has been redundant. But again, if you have any questions, let me know. I could talk about this all day. It's really exciting. It's almost there. Y'all can see it already. So yes, sir, Mr. Polonis.
How was food prepared, kept hot and not dry?
Okay, that's a great question. So all the food is still prepared in the main kitchen and is brought down to each neighborhood for the most part. We can do a little bit of cooking in the health center, but as far as large stuff, we cannot. So on one of the counters, there's different, what they call, Jessica? Induction. They're like a little induction of little hood things. So we'll actually take smaller amounts of food from the kitchen and put them in those induction little burner things, a little flip top thing, and that's where we'll serve the food. So instead of it being back on a big serving line with 60, 40, 50, 60 people, we'll be putting those smaller amounts of food in those smaller induction chafing dishes, I guess. Maybe that's kind of right. And then we'll be preparing it from there so you can see the food, you can smell it. If you want to sit at the bar and eat it, you can. So we think that's really going to help. We have new carts in each area that we're keeping them in. And each neighborhood not only has a kitchen, but as a pantry where we'll be storing all that stuff. So it'll be trial and error, but we think that will be much better. And I think we got some good feedback already, Jessica, from the assisted living area where residents are at so far. So,
Thank you.
yes, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Brandon. Before we move on, I do want to introduce the new president of the Health Center Auxiliary. But first, I want to thank Judy Grant, right down there, for all that she has done to bring the auxiliary back to life after COVID. Our new president is Sandra Still. And you see Sandy, she is happy to talk to everyone, talk to anyone, anytime, almost anytime, about our committees and our volunteer opportunities. So recognize her and you can ask her questions and you'll get answers. You have on your chairs a list of all our committees, their chairpersons and their numbers, and we want that list to grow. We also want you to see some of what we do in the health center, and so I'm going to turn the meeting over to Vera Horton, who is the activities director in the center, and Vera has a show and tell program to give you an idea of our volunteer presence. Vera.
Good afternoon, everyone. So yes, I'm Vera Horton, the Activities Director of the Stewart Health Center, and Brandon has given us a good overview just about the neighborhoods in general. So my team and I, we're gonna show you some sneak peeks of what you will see once you go into the healthcare center. Some of the hidden gems, places that have been there for a long time that you may not be aware of, but then also some new places that we have. You'll be able to take a peek. So this right here, this is our memory care unit, and this is the courtyard. So it's the C-Wing courtyard. It was remodeled and redone, and so as you can see now, everything is leveled, and we put some flower beds out there. So this is a great atmosphere for if you're doing some volunteering within the healthcare center, and you're just looking for a different place in C Wing to visit. You don't have to sit in the activities room. You can go out to the porch with some of the residents who are there. And they got the real nice picnic tables out there so you can have some shade. The residents have loved going out there, and we recently just planted some herbs and flowers in the raised beds. The next area is the Clayton Wing Courtyard. So this is an enclosed courtyard, so all the courtyards are enclosed, but it's in the middle of the building, and you can get there through Clayton Wing or some other entrances. And we do activity program out there when the weather is nice. A lot of the residents that live in Clayton Wing again is like another neighborhood that's down there. So all those residents together, they eat together, they have programming together, and a lot of them use this courtyard as well. Everybody is welcome to come out to this courtyard. Of course, there's permissions you go through to talk to the nurses when taking residents outside. But again, another lovely area where you can just kind of visit. We have master gardeners who come, and they're going to be helping us with the raised beds that are out there. And we have family members that help with some of the flower pots that are out there. And it has a sitting area with rocking chairs. So that's there. Next, we have the Greystone Patio. This is one of our new areas. Now, it sits facing the front of Springmore, so you can see the parking lot area. So you actually have a beautiful view, and you can see different things that are happening within the community. We can do socials out there. A lot of the CNAs, they've taken residents out there on the weekends and things like that as a place to gather. So it promotes social. So that's very good. This is what Brandon was talking about. So this is the Greystone dining area. Again, this is the newly renovated one. Up in the far corner here, that's that industrial area he was talking about that has the ability to serve the hot fruit from the counter. So even though the meal is being prepared somewhere else, it's warmed here. Residents can come out and eat there. We've actually, since we moved some of the residents downstairs, they have actually come out their room more to eat in the dining rooms because they say that they don't have to choose off the menu and they can just order their food there. And it's a very bright area. And we also use this room as a multi-purpose room. So whenever we're doing activities and if you're volunteering in the health center, we will move those tables and set up different programs and stuff within this dining room. Next is another multi-corner room. This is in the same dining room area, but it's off to the corner. And as you can see, the different setups, it can be used for puzzles, a reading room. We also use it for a card playing room. One of my activity assistants will talk more about that. But the Stewart Health Center Library has sponsored and have library books set up on the shelf right there. So residents, family members, volunteers can use this room at any time as long as it's not being used for a program. All right, and next, my activity assistants who you see a lot of, they're gonna come up and they're just gonna highlight a few volunteer committees on the auxiliary that could use some extra volunteers, and they're gonna give a little bit of resident and staff testimony with those to kind of let you know what those programs are and how they work, and you'll get a chance at the end to inquire about them if you have some questions. And next we have Jill Spencer. She's going to highlight a couple of programs.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, on this rainy afternoon. I see a lot of familiar faces. The first program I'm going to talk about is the evening program escorts. We have a group of volunteers that accompany residents to the Springmore Presents programs in the auditorium. The volunteers meet in the parlor, and then beforehand, they sign in and then get the names of their residents. Then they go and pick up the residents from their rooms, walk them up to the program, sit with them, and then return them back to their rooms afterwards. The evening programs usually occur 2 to 3 times per month, and the majority of them are on Thursday evenings, and they're picked up at 6:30 in the health center, and then for the 7 o'clock program. The pictures you see up here are our volunteer group and then one of our programs. The Pet Visits is another committee that we have. The Pet Visits is a group of Springmore residents who'd like to share their pets with health center residents. It also consists of volunteers that will go along with the pet owner as a helper. That's helpful for opening doors or getting residents and, just kind of helping the pet owner. The time and the frequency of the pet visits is determined by the volunteers, so there's not a specific time that you need to do that. Oh, sorry, maybe I clicked it too soon. Okay. So we also have the Flower Committee, and this is a new committee that is just being formed to arrange and distribute flowers that we receive weekly. They're arranged and distributed to the health center residents. The flowers come on Sunday mornings by 10:30, but the time to meet and the details of the process will be worked out by members of the committee. It is a new committee, so we are trying to form this, so anyone interested in flower arranging. So I'm going to introduce Dana Lorenz, my coworker and activity coordinator.
Thank you, Jill. All right. Whoops. Am I going the back? Okay, birthday parties. We do the birthday party once a month. It meets on the 4th Wednesday of the month in the Greystone dining room. Our volunteers will help us set up the program, and we will help serve the food, plate the food, and do all those good things. And then during the birthday party, there is time that you can go around and chit-chat with our residents. When the party's done, then you just help us clean up the dishes, and, it's not a lot of work. Anyways, we would love to have you join us at the birthday parties because it's a very special event each month. The next thing is the new bridge game. So this happens every Friday morning at 10:30 a.m. in Greystone. Volunteers would help our residents play the game and keep score, and they may also have to sit in and play a few hands if the table isn't full. Now, this is a brand new committee that has started because one of our newer residents really wanted to continue to play bridge. So one of our testimonies is from our volunteer, Ruth Rosenstein, who says, "It is a joyful activity to share my passion for the brain game of bridge with the Stewart Health Center ladies, and maybe some gentlemen would like to join us sometime. Not only is it a mental and social exercise, but promotes memories of happy times with past family and friends." And then Mary Huffstetler, who plays bridge, says, "I love being able to play bridge because it is a good challenge for my mind and my memory." And now I will introduce our next activity assistant, Bailey McGee.
Hello. So I am going to talk about a few more programs. We have bingo, and we have our chair head for bingo here, Miss Pat. But our volunteers are going to help us at bingo on most Mondays, and they're needed to help the residents play the game because we have some residents that need prompting or they don't hear or see quite as well, and so they need some help on where to put their chips. And then we also have the opportunity for helping us clean the chips. That doesn't happen as often as we would love, and so more hands would always be helpful with that as well. Our next, oh goodness, I'm going to put this here. That's going to make me not swap back and forth. So our next program is the worship service that happens on the first and third Tuesdays in the morning. And our volunteers help. We have 2 volunteers that help greet the residents and pass out the songbooks. And then we also get our music and sermons from volunteers as well. So if you have a passion for preaching or are musically inclined, we would love to have you join this group. Our Lunch Bunch is a program that happens most Thursdays, and the volunteers with this program meet us outside the clinic. You can see right here where this is a group of some of our residents, our staff, and our volunteers. They meet us outside the clinic, and they help us take a group of residents from the health center to eat in the North Village main dining room, where we have good food and conversation, and the volunteers usually go through the line to get the food that the residents requested, and then escort them home at the end of the meal. And our feeding off of that Lunch Bunch group, we have testimonies here. Janet Byer, one of our frequent residents that go to Lunch Bunch, she says one of the things that she likes about the health center is the opportunity to still have lunch with neighbors in the main dining room. It's also fun to meet new people, including the wonderful volunteers. And then I got to be your staff testimony, and I said that Lunch Bunch gives the health center residents a chance to change their location, their position. And it's always good. The doctor sometimes well, not really the doctor, but let me just read it. Sometimes a change in scenery is just what the doctor ordered. The Lunch Bunch a lot of the times is how we start getting new residents that are they're new to the health center, engaged in some of our activities, because they don't necessarily, they may be there temporarily, or they may not feel comfortable leaving their room as much. And the Lunch Bunch gives them the opportunity to go back to a familiar place now that they've moved into the health center. And our last slide here is a volunteer statement in loving memory of Miss Ethel Boone. Dan Hurley was Miss Ethel Boone's personal reading volunteer, and Dan visited Miss Ethel once a week and enjoyed the experience. Miss Ethel enjoyed the experience so much, she often told him she wanted to gather a larger group instead of it just being her, so that others could enjoy his reading to her as well. And Dan says of his time spent with Miss Boone, the late Miss Ethel Boone was 93, alert, attentive, kind, and good-humored. It was a treat to see her each week and to read from the books that we chose together. I got to see her at her invitation not long before her passing, and I miss her still. And then our last slide here is from our entertainment troupe that Miss Glennis does, our special programs on, it was Fridays, but it's now Thursdays, and I think we're just playing it. that program happens once a month or once every other month, and they get together. They do a lot of practice training. Sometimes we have Carrie, sometimes we have Brad, and the residents always enjoy all the songs and dancing that they provide us.
Thank you, Vera, and everybody. Before we get to the end of the meeting, we want to recognize and thank all of our auxiliary volunteers who are here today. So if you are a member of any volunteer committee or several volunteer committees for the auxiliary, please stand up right now and take a bow. And before we get to the raffle drawing, let me tell you that at the end of the meeting, committee chair people, you see up here in the front row, will be here with sign-up sheets and information. So if you want to join another committee other than what you're already on, or if you want to join a new committee, if you're already not on one, come up, ask questions, sign up, and especially our newest residents are most welcome to add the joy of being a health center volunteer to their schedules. Now, Barbara Smith is going to tell you about next month's program.
I do want to tell you that it is a joy to be a volunteer and to see the lights on the faces of people when you bring joy into their lives. So I do hope that a lot of you will take this opportunity to learn and to enjoy these people, because it's great. And you know, someday we're going to be there too. And I would love for people to come and sing and dance and eat and read and whatever. It would be good. Thank you for being here. Next month, we're going to have an end-of-life planning. It will be talking about hospice care, the transition house. It will be, let me see if I can think of this right off my head, Charlotte Jenkins, Sue Kohler, and Lori will be here. And any questions that you have about any of the life-ending things, we will certainly answer the best of their abilities. So I hope we'll have a big crowd for that. And thank you again for coming. And I'm going to turn this over to, before I leave, please, whoever wins a prize, be sure to thank Vidya at the First Citizens Bank. She gets these prizes for us all the time. She's just so neat. So be here.
Peg forgot to give you one little detail. We're locking the doors, and you don't get out until you sign up for one of the committees. So. Brandon, would you do the honors, please? Sure.
Got it? There we go.
Whoops, excuse me. The red ticket is 026513. 026513. Over here.
Who got it?
And a blue one.
All right.
Here it is.
Yes, sir.
Oops. sorry. I hate these blue ones. The numbers are so small. 1480099. 1480099. Okay. Thank you very much, Brandon, and thank you much, Vera, and your crew for bringing us this very informative program today. We look forward to seeing all of you again next month, Monday, June the 9th at 3 p.m. in the auditorium. This meeting is now adjourned.